The Blue Man. Yes, the Blue Man.
I'm Steph.
And I'm Ange.
We're
Nerdazons.
I hate doing this.
You did a good job.
So this fortnight was my choice, and I chose this one because it's a movie that most people know of, but I don't know, it's like one of those that you may or not have watched, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Because we
my
all know
goal.
how I feel about creepy,
About creepy
children.
kids. That's why I chose it. Yes. I was going through my list. And I'm like, what will I pick? And I'm like, Steph is going to love this. This is what we're going to do. So I chose Children of the Corn 1984 against Children of the Corn 2009. So I do know there is a 2020 remake, but I did choose the
There's
2009.
about half a dozen remakes.
Yeah, but I chose the 2009 because it is the next one from the 80s film, and it would be I thought it would be a good comparison to see the first person reattempt it from book format. So that's why I chose that one. So I'll start with the synopsis. In 1984, I can already see an error in this, but I'll read it anyway. A young couple is trapped in a remote town where a dangerous religious cult of children believes that everyone over age 18 must be killed. Pretty sure in that movie it was 19, but,
Yep.
you know, I'm not going to correct them. Children of the Corn 2009. While traveling, an unhappy married couple encounter a cult of murderous children who worship an entity called He Who Walks Behind the Rose.
First of all, we really like punishing ourselves, don't we?
I know. Can we start? We'll start with the story because I feel like this is how it's going to be. This story is an incredible, so interesting. 'Cause I feel like, I don't know, I feel like there would be some backwards, like, small town out there that are really radical in religious beliefs. And it kind of really plays on that as the viewer. Like, you really get drawn into that story, which is why I think I really like Stephen King's stories, is he really plays on that psychological aspect of it. And I think that was really interesting about the story.
I wasn't expecting the brutality at the beginning of the original.
Me
I was
too.
like, whoa.
Because
And
I'd
this
seen
is the
bits
first
and
time I've
pieces
seen
of
it.
I had seen bits and pieces of it. Not much. I don't remember much. But then when I watched the beginning, I was just like, whoa, that was
like,
intense.
Angie's going to love this movie.
Yeah, and it was like really cool prosthetic score, which I love in about, 70s and 80s films.
I have a fun fact to begin with.
Okay.
I didn't realize that Isaac in the original was actually 27.
Wait.
Yeah.
No, that can't be right.
Yep, he was 27 playing a 12-year-old.
No, that can't be right because he's
Yep.
Tina Boyle in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Isaac, the little boy.
Yeah, in the original, he's born in 56.
I need to check this.
Blow your own mind. Blow your own mind. That's fine. Look him up on IMDb, bro.
What?
Yeah.
1959?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
No, okay, hang on, wait. Okay. Oh my god.
Yeah. I was like, what? What?
Wow.
Yeah.
No wonder he looks so much like Tina Boyle in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because I'm like, oh, his face hasn't changed from a 12-year-old because he wasn't 12. Wow. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Mind
I was completely shocked, and I was like, I need to tell you that.
I'm sorry I doubted you.
You're welcome. So I do have a few notes. Yeah, right off the bat, all the adults were brutally murdered.
Myrtled.
Right off the bat, all the adults were brutally murdered by the children. And then I put down, I wouldn't trust any kid who wears that hat, not as a joke.
It's like, now that you've told me how he's, like, how old he actually was, I keep thinking of Orphan. Did you ever watch that film?
Yes, that was so
like,
bad.
Tricking everyone to think that he's a 12-year-old.
I know. And then I'm just going to go through some of my notes really quickly. Sarah wasn't part of the group. She had the ability of sight, which let her draw things that happened right at that moment. Some pictures are from the future, but not that far to do anything. Bert and Vicky are going through a rough patch, and Vicky is trying really hard to be spontaneous. please stop singing. When and then with Sarah having abilities, you saw that she drew a picture of the yellow car coming to town. Isaac knew that like half an hour ago when Malachi already told him. So I'm like, okay. And then when Vicky and Bert went into the house, also, even I know this. First rule of horror movies, don't go inside a house when there's no sound and the door's already unlocked. You know something's up.
And it's not your house to begin with. I don't know why in so many
stuff.
American films they just walk into someone else's house.
And then it's really funny that Sarah draws that picture of Vicky being taken, and literally 30 seconds later she's getting taken. I thought that was quite
I love
amusing.
When she handed her the picture, she had the like biggest smile on her face, like, really? Yes, you like it? Yeah. No, I really like the story. You can definitely tell the age of the first film, and especially more in the dialogue and the script. So Linda Hamilton, gorgeous as ever when, at that age, I'll say. But when her and Bert are sort of talking throughout the whole film, you can tell it's an early 80s film because every time she questions something, he shut her down. And normally I don't really get into that. I like the politics or things like that in films, but this one I really noticed it. So when you hit a kid, and she was just asking simple questions and he would just shut her down. It's like, no, just, I know what I saw, it's done, let's just keep going. So she really, I don't know, I just feel like that's something that didn't age very well. It's like, you're a partnership, you're both in the car, you both hit the kid, talk it out. But no. And then whenever she would say, and I think this is a recurring theme across both, whenever Vicky had a hunch or would be like, don't go, because they don't listen to her throughout, the dialogue that we saw, they quite often end up in the wrong area that they should be in.
See, I felt that exact same way. At the beginning, I was just like, Vicky, you're so annoying. I hope you die.
Are you talking about the second one?
In the second one, I was like, Vicky, I hope you die.
Bad.
Please, just so like bad. You need. And then towards the end, I was like, nah, sorry, I'm on Vicky's side. She's actually saying, don't go down that way. Don't go that way. And then he was like, I'm going to go do it. And then the fact that in the first one, the guy at the gas station goes, just go straight ahead. Just go straight ahead. And I don't understand how they got so off track.
They were in the middle of the corn, and I'm like, what?
How? The guy just said go straight ahead.
Yeah, I know, but they did say, like, they tried with the dialogue. I guess we're kind of talking script and story here, but with the script and dialogue, they were talking, someone's playing with the signs. Wasn't that sign facing right like 2 miles ago, and now it's facing left? So that didn't make sense. If you were in that town and you didn't want any adults there, why would you confuse them to get into the town in the first place? It doesn't make sense to me. Like, you don't want them there.
An hour. It was literally in the 2009, it was an hour of them bickering. I was just like, is this movie ever going to end?
Yeah, it got to, I think, again, I know it's a bad film when I check runtime, and it was an hour and 20. And the film stops at the runtime's 1:39, and it was 1:20 before they even Malachi and that even really went after him in the cornfields.
I know.
And I'm like, this is so annoying. And it's about the same runtime for the original. The original was about an hour and a half.
Okay, what was up with that weird sex scene thing?
Okay.
And I was like, I don't understand it.
Okay, don't judge me.
Yeah.
But when I watched the original, it sparks so many questions, because even I was sitting there in the original, and I always mutter away to my partner when I watch it because he doesn't really pay attention to it while I watch. I said to him, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. You act all tough because this was Malachi, because he had a real attitude problem in the original one, the actor. And I thought, why would you act like that? Because sooner or later, you're an adult. Like, why would kids, because I was questioning it during the actual murder scene at the beginning. I thought, why would you question that? You want to get rid of the adults, but time's not going to stop for you. You're going to be an adult. And then the second one kind of just really, I feel like they didn't need to add it, but I feel like they really added what happens in that situation. They do have to continue having kids around, but at the same time. But I just feel they were able to accomplish that in the first one without having to have such a weird scene especially with all the kids watching. I thought that was really strange.
Gave me a
Gross vibe.
Midsommar vibe. Have you seen that one?
Nah, I know of it, but I don't really wish to watch it.
You like horror films? I actually
But that's like
didn't hate
more gore, isn't it? And I don't really like gore. I like thriller and suspense.
It's gory, but it's also like what the actual F. Also, it's got Florence Pugh, and I freaking adore her.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a weird scene in that you're just like, and that reminded me of it.
Gross.
And then the girl at the end who was like, where they're like, oh, you're 18, you've got to sacrifice yourself. And she's just suddenly like, no. You're like, why stick up? Is it because you're about to turn 18? Is that why you suddenly have all these remorse feelings?
No, I don't think. No, with her, I don't know. I feel like she was meant to be, because a big difference in the story between the 1984 and the 2009 is Vicky and Bert didn't survive in the second one. Mm-hmm. They survived in the original, and Bert was the one who destroyed He Who Lies Behind the Rose, whereas in the second one he continued. There are actually multiple sequels to this.
Yes.
If you have a look, but let's not talk about sequels. But in this one, Vicky and Bert actually die, and I feel like that Malachi's partner, with her vision of her like burning it, she's meant to be, you know, the savior of killing He Who Lies Behind the Rose. But I just feel like it was something that didn't need to come across on the screen. It translated well enough in the original, but they had a longer time difference too, because as soon as the second one started and it said 12 years later, and you had a different, like Isaac in the first one, he was known as Preacher Boy, and then it was Isaac. Yep. So he changed, and then it made me question, 12 years. Yeah, sure, they would have started, but it didn't make sense with Malachi either, because he would have been what, like 8?
Looked 8. He
when it happened,
so much older. Yep.
Oh, okay. I was going to save that for the characters, but there are so many boys who are meant to be part of the army that look like they were 30 years old. They were so big and bulky, and I'm like, you're not under 18. No way.
No, but I liked the ending of the original Children of the Corn a lot better.
Same.
I liked that they got away, and that, except one thing, is that at the end of the original, when they were driving in their car, I was expecting one last jump scare from Isaac. You know how he turned into the zombie, or I was expecting something at the end. I wasn't expecting them to be like, you can come live with us for a week. Oh, how about a month? Oh, how about
the girl popped up in the car, which I thought was strange, because everyone else questioned it when he was in the corn. A, how did she get back to the car so quick? And B, why did she start to like, you know, support the demon again? I thought her popping up didn't make sense, but the rest of the story I really enjoyed, and I feel like it's a roundabout story, and you could just watch the first one as a single story.
And I have to say, when Isaac dies, and then the whole 80s thing, like, that was the best. And then at the end,
the like red light,
and then the red light, just the sparkling, so and then good. At the end when the cloud of smoke and it was like a scary face, you're like, oh, this is so good.
I just love that about classic horrors. Like, when I talk, a tangent here, but when I talk about horrors with people that I work with, and they're always like, watch this, and I'm like, I always just default back to classic. I just love classic, and new ones very rarely does it pique my interest. Like, I'm coming to very soon to a 2-week break from my studies, which I'm so excited for, and I've already made a list of classic horror films that I know of, but I haven't actually watched, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch them finally.
What are you gonna watch?
Well, I know Creature from the Black Lagoon is on my list.
Oh yeah.
Maybe The Thing, The Blob. Like, I know of those ones, but I've never watched them, so I thought maybe I'll give them a go.
See, I didn't know that. I've seen the 1980s Blob, but is there a new remake of it? Is there? Yeah. So there's a 1980s version and a 1950s version. You said.
Yep, and Steve McQueen is in the 1958 version. So, yeah, anyway, I'm just going to go back and watch some of those because I love, classic horror. It's probably my favorite genre of film. But, yeah, anyway, that was a tangent, but I love the hokiness about it. I love the, like, bad prosthetics because I think this is my justification for it, and especially this is why Nightmare on Elm Street is probably my favorite series of all time, is the prosthetics they use to make the blood, the gore, even supernatural stuff. Like in Nightmare on Elm Street, when he's coming through the wall, they had proper perspex for him to come through. It wasn't CGI after that, and that's what I love about it.
I've never seen Nightmare on Elm Street.
Maybe I'll have to make that as one. But we all know how the remake turned out.
I don't know. I've never seen it, so.
All right. Well, I think you could guess how that was. But anyway, off topic. I know we're talking a lot about prosthetics, script, story.
Let's move on to characters.
Okay. So I think we should talk about Vicky and Bert first, between the two.
Yes. So Vicky and Bert from the original, Peter Horton and Linda Hamilton.
Also, she was so gorgeous.
Amazing.
I didn't realize it was her. So I think I must have been confusing in my head before I watched it. I think I was confusing Village of the Damned, the remake, because it had Kirstie Alley. I always thought it was Kirstie Alley in this. Yeah, so I must have got that one confused. Yeah, definitely a different vibe with these two. I liked that it was a, cross-country road trip because he's going to get this big job.
I like that as well. I like that, he was a doctor, and when they hit the kid, he was like, oh, shit, okay, we've got to, oh no, he was already dead beforehand, and it felt like he genuinely was worried.
Yeah.
Whereas in the remake,
oh man,
they were terrible for each other.
5 minutes in, I messaged Steph, just for all your listeners, sorry for cutting you off there, but I messaged and I'm like, oh my God, I can't freaking stand Vicky.
No, I was like, this is terrible.
Like, they didn't even want to try. Like, she just had Attitude City the whole time. And I'm like, you didn't even want to try to talk to your husband. And then when he hit the kid, the things she was saying, and I was just like, you are a nasty piece of work. It's not like, he asked to go to war. And, like, he's probably got a lot of mental trauma from it. And you're just like, you're going to go to jail. You killed someone. I'm like, you're a nasty person. You're vindictive. That's what you are.
And I didn't realize that Bert David Andress plays in iZombie.
I actually recognized him from Alias first because I was really into that. He was the British guy. I can't remember his name. I feel like it started with J. Julius, something like that. Anyway, yeah, I recognized
Julian.
And
he played Blaine in iZombie.
He always does like a British accent, even though he's not British.
Is he not British?
Nah. Because I Googled it and I'm like, oh my God, this American accent is so weird. And then apparently he quite often gets cast in British roles because he does a pretty good accent.
That's blowing my mind that he's not actually British.
I know, because I was just like, how can you're the wrong person for this. You're not British and you're not in your suit. But yeah, interesting. It had a very different vibe, this one. So I guess
he was I did not like him at all either. And
I actually didn't like Vicky more than him.
Oh, I didn't like either of them. And the whole time I'm like, please, can one of you die?
They were so poisoned for each other.
They had zero connection that they were even married. I did not believe that they were in a relationship at all.
Yes and no. I feel like Bert, when you watched it, he really tried to make an effort for some times. But when I was saying she had this constant attitude, she didn't even want to try. She didn't try. So then it set him off. But he did try quite a few times at the beginning of the film. Let's do this. Let's try that. Let's do this. What bugged me a little bit, like even though she was more in your face, what bugged me the most with him is she was genuinely scared in the car. Like you could see it. It was a big difference to her when she was, you're going to go to jail, you're angry and all that. But then when she was scared in the car, it was like a genuine fear, and he didn't listen to his wife. And she even tried to say, this is something I grew up in, and it scared her, and he just didn't care. And when she goes, I'll give you 10 minutes, and he took the keys, and then he's like, you would probably say 2 minutes, and then you drive away. I'm like, so much trust in each other. What? Well, I could understand that.
I would have done the same.
Moments before, she was saying you're going to go to jail, wait till they come and get you, and I'm just like, wow, this is a terrible marriage. But yeah, it was just, I didn't like the vibe with them because it didn't feel like to me, if you were stuck in a town like this, you wouldn't do everything you can to save your, your wife. Like, you could see Bert by Peter Horton in the original. He was constantly questioning, where's Vicky? Where did you see her take her? Where is she? Did you see the girl? Like,
and then at the end, towards the end in the original, when they're in the cabin or something, and he's like protecting her and those two little kids, going, go here, do this, quick, protecting her.
Yeah, exactly.
Where,
like,
when
it seemed
Vicky
genuine.
When Vicky died in the remake, he's like, where's Vicky? Oh, she's probably dead. You killed her, didn't you?
He was like, my wife is in that car, and I'm like, yeah.
She's not. She's really not.
But to be like honest though, both of them didn't feel anything. I think because the way they were portrayed in the beginning, you didn't connect with them.
Mm-mm.
I didn't connect with them, even when like you knew he was that soldier, but by the way that they connected in the beginning and how vicious it was when he was having a mental episode in the corn, I still didn't really feel for him because they didn't really build his character up at all. They made them both out like pieces of crap.
Which they were, and I was praying for them to die in the remake. I was just like, you guys need to go now, please. Like,
yeah, I just can't believe it's such a contrast though from, such a classic to do that like 10 years later. Or later, it was later than that.
84 to 20 something years.
Yeah, so it's just like what a change in people. And then they changed the time as well. So it was the 70 or
69.
Yeah, in the second one, whereas in the first one it was the second one was 74.
Oh.
But they both started off in 63. But remember, there's a 12-year gap in the second one.
Yeah, but why was she, like, their outfits and stuff didn't look...
Hers didn't look like it at all.
Hers looked like everyday, what I'd like...
They looked like what you'd wear in 2009.
Yeah.
I know, it didn't make any sense.
And then all of the bracelets, when she was in the car, all those bracelets, I'm like, that's such a, like, naughty thing.
Yeah, I know. Well, we've crossed into costumes there, but yeah, their costumes made no sense. Even in... The one benefit I'll give them is all the kids in the second one had like a creepy sort of like cult uniform. Like they were all in dark colors. They were all dressed, like all the boys were dressed with like.
They were all terrible though. All of those kids, I hope that their acting career stopped there because I don't
think many of them passed from there.
Like the kids in the original, which I want to move on to, like Malachi and Isaac.
Yeah.
How creepy was Isaac, especially now knowing that he was almost 30.
I know, that's creepy.
And then also, like, Malachi was like, I will do anything to follow Isaac. I will do anything.
He had a crazy look. And then when he would take over, I'm like, oh yeah, it's typical. Whenever there's like someone that thinks you're stronger than the boss, they always try to take him out, and they did that. It was so predictable move, but I liked it. But I don't know if you've seen this, but when I first saw Malachi, I googled him purely because I wanted to know what else he was in. He looked so much like the kid in Sixth Sense, the one that have you seen The Sixth Sense?
Yeah.
So the one that's like, hey, do you want to go and play with my dad's shotgun? And the kid was dead and had the big, he looked like that kid. It's not him, but it just reminded me of him.
Yeah, he was creepy, and I thought that was really good. Like, I thought that Malachi was so creepy in the original, whereas
it seemed like someone who was poisoned in the mind.
Oh, that's a great word to... Yes, he was poisoned in the mind, and that he had the ability to poison everybody else in the town.
Yeah.
Whereas the 2009, I thought the kid was way too young. He was like 6 years old. Preston Bailey, I thought, he was too young, and that he didn't have that hold over me.
Yeah, he didn't have. Now that I know he was 29, it makes sense. He could bring that level of authority to him, whereas this 6-year-old, there is no authority in his voice. There's nothing. But it makes sense that he was like a new prophet.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that just comes through the script. Whereas I liked that it started in the first one. You didn't need to build on it from there.
Mm-mm.
But the boy who played Malachi in the second one, Daniel Newman, way too old. He didn't seem.
He seemed like a bully,
He seemed
like
like
a high
someone.
school bully.
He seemed like someone who did grow up around that particular religion, and
Yeah.
it was just normal to him. Whereas Malachi in the first one, he seemed like someone who was so crazy about it that he was ready to bully you into liking it. Like, he seemed
Mm-hmm.
like if you didn't accept his word, then you're a non-believer, you're gone. Whereas this guy, but he also seemed like someone who's like, oh, I'm one of the older ones, I have to protect everyone else in town. That's just how it came across.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was nothing to it. And I didn't feel anything for him when he's like, oh, we're lowering it down to 18 now. You got to go and walk in to the corn. Didn't really believe any of
Cool.
that.
I was like, cool story, bro.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and then I made a note here about, I was thinking, oh, what was the score like? Blah blah blah. And I went, the score for the 2009 was so unmemorable and non-existent that I was like, I'm not going to watch this a second time so I can listen to the score. No, thank you. So no.
But I will say, for the second one and the first one, but for the second one, the score might not have been there, but the sound effects really did make you feel like you were alone in this hot
in the second
desert.
one.
Yeah, because they had a lot of like cicadas. They had a lot of that noise that made that silent noise. You know what I mean? Where you just pick up on little things.
I was just, to be honest, I was so bored in this movie.
Oh, me too.
I was so bored. I'm like, are they going to stop arguing?
I know. I
Scary
felt the
gonna
same.
happen. Where was this? Like, I was telling Ange before we were recording, a couple of days ago, I was like, I'm genuinely scared to watch these movies because I hate creepy children, even though I know that the 80s one is going to be okay, just because when you get a remake, generally they are scarier because the effects are a lot realer. And going back to, Pet Cemetery, that had a few jump scares where I was like, oh, and like this, I was just so bored.
Oh, me too. 100%. I really disliked it.
There was no special effects of like death or anything. Like, even when Vicky was on the cross and she was dead and she had like corn out of her eyes and stuff, and then she had like that creepy voiceover, I was like, finally, you're
It
dead.
just looked like Jeepers Creepers to me, that scene.
Again, haven't seen it.
That one's a good one. I do like that one. But yeah, even I didn't feel anything for this one.
Mm-mm.
They kept to the story, but they really distorted it. And I think starting from the beginning is what they should have done. Whereas they jumped like 12 years ahead. You had to understand, why was all this happening? It filled it in when he was in the church and he was reading it, and he didn't click until he's like, 1963, and then all the deaths and then the births. And it's just like, you had to pay attention in order to fill that 12-year gap. And I just didn't like it. Whereas in the first one,
I didn't want to pay attention.
No, yeah, I 100% agree. But the first one, yeah, they should have just started from the beginning of the story like they did in that one.
But apparently this one was more true to the Stephen King short story.
Okay.
However, they mentioned to Stephen King, hey, do you want a part of this? And his lawyers were like, nah, we want nothing to do with this. Nah, you
do it.
Yep, you do it. Nah.
When something like that happens, where like a show creator steps away, you know it's going to be bad. So, for example, just off topic, the new Rings of Power series.
Yes.
Peter Jackson, I can't believe you're excited for that. It looks terrible. But Peter Jackson offered to help them with it. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, like for free. He offered to do it for free. And they're like, okay, yeah, we'll send you a script. Nothing. They ghosted him. Same with the new Avatar, The Last Airbender series. They're doing a live action. I love that series.
But that movie was so bad.
That movie was bad. And then they're doing a live action, but they got the original show creators on it.
Ooh.
And then it got that bad in the writing room that the creators walked out.
Oh.
So you know it's going to be bad. It's just like, as soon as
I didn't realize that, like, the trailer for Rings of Power looks so good.
It's just not to the story, and that's where I think a lot of the flack is coming from.
Very off topic. Yeah, I did like it. I just think that definitely the last one was just a giant pile of steaming poo.
Oh, it's so bad. I feel like 2000s, between 2000s and the 2010s sort of area, early 2010s, there were some pretty good B-grade horror films out there, which I don't mind. I actually don't mind a lot of them, but I thought this was going to be okay. It was so bad. And I was sitting there and I'm like, why did I choose this?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about, how my mate made the comment about Fantastic Four. Gosh, you like punishing yourself, don't you? And then I thought of that as I was watching this. I'm like, we do like punishing ourselves.
Yeah, I know, so bad. Even the one thing that sort of more modern horror films have is that gore, and or they add in more of a kill count. There wasn't even that in this. There was more of a kill count in the first one. And it was
in the second one, when Bert was running through the cornfield and then you saw all of the dead bodies, he was like, no. I'm like, oh. And, when the corn was starting to curl around him, I was like, that's so CGI. Whereas in the original, when the other little kid came and cut it up for him and was helping him, I was like, you don't want to be a part of this. You want to, go home. You want to be like at peace. And I that little kid was willing to risk his life to save Bert. And when the Molotov cocktail didn't work, he ran and gave it back, and he's like, do it again and do it properly.
Yeah, like with Malachi's partner, I feel like they tried to have her have a little bit of a Job and the Blue Man vibe. Mm-hmm. Like, she didn't want him to go. You could tell in her face she was starting to question, why do we have to die for this? Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, when she had the vision of her burning it, that was the Blue Man. And I feel like it's just, they couldn't translate it across the screen like they did with the others. Also, I just need to talk about the petrol guy.
Oh, yeah. That was so funny.
That was so sad. The dog.
Oh, yeah. I know. I should have Googled. I should have gone on that website, does the dog die?
I didn't know. And then I'm glad they didn't really show it, though. But, yeah, it just...
Oh, I was just laughing because I was like, when the guy was like, you want to use the toilet? You can't use the toilet unless you buy petrol. But we're out of petrol, so blah, blah, blah. You're like, all right, tell us to leave then.
I know. Like that guy had the biggest vibe of, don't come near me. I do not want to talk to you. But in the petrol station in the second one, completely gone. There was no one there.
I know.
And that just led... I think I liked having the dimension of the petrol guy, because to have a guy that's on the outskirts of town, afraid enough to do what the kids tell him to do, adds that element of fear of, oh, my God, the kids are creepy. I don't want to go into that town. Whereas when you took the guy out of the second one, it was just, oh, there's no one here. Let's just keep going to town. And you don't have that anticipation of, why is that guy afraid of the kids,
Also, one of the other comments I made about 80s one, when Sarah tells Bert and Vicky about what's going on, how are they not worried? How are you not worried? How are you not scared? How are you not like, what's going on? Where are your parents?
Like when she's like, oh, they're in the corn.
But also,
like, oh, okay, they must just be out farming for the day, because it was farm area.
But also, like, there was no adults. The town was clearly deserted. How are you not slightly panicking? And then I also wrote down, I love how Bert has zero awareness of the kids around him at every corner. Like, he's looking around, and then he looks back, and then the kids pop up. Like,
I know.
You're a doctor. You've got to have some sort of attention to detail on that.
But also, I don't know if I trust him as a doctor, because when the guy tried to shove him off and he's like, don't come into my emergency ward, that's not how doctors operate. Even if they don't like you, they take a code to have to, like, help you.
I know.
So it added to that element of, I don't think I like you. You're a bit of a dick.
One of the things that just came to mind is when the kids are in that field and that they're attacking Bert and Vicky and everybody, and Bert's like, I've got this, and he goes to give, I think it's Malachi, a kick in the balls, and then he turns around, and then he hits himself on the plug, and then falls down.
And why just hit him in the, like, foot. Like they literally are hunting you down, and you're just gonna, like, I'm sorry, fair game. If kids are gonna hunt you down, you attack
hunt them back.
You knock them out. Like,
yeah.
And obviously, by the way everyone's saying Malachi, they say it so many times, and he was right there. And yeah.
I thought it was quite amusing.
Yeah. It was so good, though. I still like it. Okay.
I didn't hate it.
So the big question, well, not the big question. We're not up to that part yet. But how many movie reels do you give each of these films?
Okay. So my score for the 84 is a 2.5. It had some chuckles, and it was genuinely not scary, but it was shocking to see at the beginning when everybody was dying and you were like, what is going on? Plus creepy children. Yeah, I don't think I probably would watch it again, but maybe in a couple of years. Now with the 2009, I gave 0. I gave 100% 0. I would not watch it again. I hated Candice McClure and David Andreas in this.
Terrible
I was hoping
dynamic.
that they would die. I was hoping that they would die.
Yeah. So for the 1984, I'd give it a 3. It's a great film, and it really sparks a lot of future films. And just like that real creepy small town cult vibe or new pagan vibe.
Definitely felt that. And I
like that. I think it sparks a lot in the future. Even I think some Supernatural episodes were sort of themed around it, and I think it's a good film. I'd watch it again because I like, the classics. But for the second one, I will have to agree. I'd have to go with 0. It was terrible. There wasn't not even any effects or anything that could have saved that film. We usually try to find something, but nothing. And yeah, it was just a whole film just watching two people argue constantly or scream, and I was just like, oh my God, I can't handle you anymore. But yeah, I would have to agree. But now the fun part. I actually kind of like asking you these questions because you're really good at it.
Genuinely, I make sure that I avoid any of that kind of stuff. So when I'm looking at IMDb, I always go straight down to top cast.
I actually avoid IMDb totally. I try not to look at all.
I can't because otherwise I'll lose track of characters, and I completely avoid Rotten Tomatoes at every cost.
Yeah. So what do you think the 1984 got?
I did write this down just while we were talking. So I put that my Rotten Tomato score is 54%.
Lower.
By a lot or not?
Yes.
36%.
You were so close. It got 34. Yeah.
That's disappointing.
I know, right? I didn't think it would get that either because this is the first time I've looked at it.
I was like, now...
What do you think the audience score was?
Now I'm just like, shit, because I wrote down what I thought the audience, what the 2009 would get, but knowing how bad that got, now I'm like, I put down that the audience score was 42%.
Lower. And very close.
40%.
You got it.
Far out. Yes! Half a point to me. Shut up. That's amazing. Only because you were like, it's close. I was like, okay.
I wasn't going to say anything. And I'm like, I'll give you the clue. Maybe I've just given up on checking. I literally watch it right before we record, and then that's it. I don't even think about it. All right. What do you think the 2009 got?
Well, okay. I did. You know what? I'm just going to stick with what I put.
No.
I guess that the original got 54. And it was much lower. So I did put down that I thought it got 22%, but considering how low the 84 got, I'm like, I'm going to change it to 15%.
Lower.
By a lot? I can't exactly say that because it's like 22. Was it by much?
Yeah.
By a lot. What did I say? 22?
You said 15.
Oh, okay, because I originally said 20. Okay, 15. Lower than that, I'm going to go 4.
Nah, this is our first. It's a 0%.
I shouldn't laugh, but I'm like, that deserved the 0%.
It did.
Man.
It did. What do you think the audience score got?
I wrote down your audience score, 19%.
Lower.
By a lot.
Not gonna say.
I'm going to guess that it got 3%.
No, it actually got 16.
Shut
16% of over 500 plus ratings thought this was all right, enough to get a mark.
How did this get 16?
16% of the audience score.
And then the other movie got 0.
No, this one got 0% tomato meter and a 16% audience score.
I know.
And the other one was 34 and 40%. Yeah, I know. Pretty shocking.
Mental.
I know. I am so obsessed with how these get ranked because it's just so interesting that sometimes
we're right, sometimes we're wrong.
Yeah, sometimes the audience score is right and make it really high, and then sometimes it's just really bad, like this.
Because I don't remember the name of the movie, but there was one movie where the Rotten Tomatoes score was like 12, but the audience score was like 90 something.
Yeah, I can't remember that either, but I do remember that. It's just so interesting. Anyway, yeah, that's what it is. And Steph is a point ahead. Shall we move on to
Nerdazon's Nerdy Notables?
How did I forget that this segment even exists?
I know.
I was just going to move straight on to. I am finally up to date with What We Do in the Shadows.
I'm not actually.
Oh my god. I forgot because I was watching it from season 1 and 2, and then I think because I was waiting for season 3, I was like, I forgot about it.
Yeah. I started it and just never went back to it. I think I got
Mark
2
Hamill was
episodes.
in an episode.
Yeah, I know.
That's a great one.
I know. I do really. That was it. He was in the second one, season.
Yeah.
I haven't watched all of the 3rd season yet.
It gets good.
I know. Yeah, I think it's because I don't know why we didn't finish it, to be honest. But yeah, I do need to finish it. It's on the to watch list.
And I'm starting up a D&D game soon online. I'm going to start doing that soon. Not really much has been happening with me. Yeah, I've just been busy applying for new jobs and being an adult.
Good luck. Fingers crossed for you. I honestly am the same. I have only been watching a little bit of anime here and there. So I've been watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
What's that?
It's an anime. It's on Netflix. You can watch it. It's really good. I like it. It took a bit to get into, but if you like fighting, bit of music reference, I love the vibrant colors. It's a really unique style. So just watching episodes here and there, but my exam's coming up, so I've just been studying busy for that. Hopefully I will have more to discuss in the next episode.
Yes, so next episode is my choice.
Yep.
We're doing the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book and movie. I haven't seen that movie for a very, very long time.
Same. I haven't even listened to the book yet, but I haven't seen the film in a very long time either.
All I know is that I remember Sam Rockwell being in it, and I freaking love Sam Rockwell so much. And so many people pop up in that movie. So
yeah, that's right.
I'm very excited for it, and I've just finished the book. So, yeah, I'm very excited.
Because I've been heavily studying. It's just been music for me. I just can't commit my brain power to listening to a book. I know that sounds really bad because I can't even commit to reading a book, but I've just been flipping music on to sort of switch off because it's just been constant brain power. So hopefully
Same.
After my exam next Wednesday, I'll be able to
just... It's heavy metal for me lately.
Yeah, it's always good to drown stuff out. No.
It is. Absolutely. If you want to follow us at Nerdazons on Instagram and Facebook, you can send us an email at nerdazons@outlook.com with any suggestions or any comments that you have. You can also listen to us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and wherever you get your good podcasts.
Until then, stay nerdy.